Ba-da-bop. Welcome to the first morning after the night that was of the regular season. Let's go! Montreal Canadiens and Toronto Maple Leafs play what I thought was a pretty fun, entertaining game. We'll get into the nuts and bolts of the Canadiens losing a 5-2 final in the Big Smoke. 3-2 with a couple of empty netters, the pluses and minuses, who was going, who wasn't going, and of course a look into the Detroit Red Wings matchup tonight. It's the Detroit Centennial season, and it's their home opener tonight. There's Marco D'Amico. I am Shaun Starr. Big thanks to our partners, cheapesttshirts.ca. It's a proudly Canadian-owned, no minimum orders, great prices, same-day shipping. That's where Marco gets his tees. That's where we're going to load up for our merch, for our swag, for the fall season. We all get it at cheapesttshirts.ca. You can support us by supporting our sponsors. By all accounts, Marco, McLean's Pub was bumping last night. And of course, it is your home away from home for all Montreal Canadiens games. And that place was slammed to the gills. And I hope it's the same for our appearance there. You can catch D'Amico and Starr live from McLean's October 22nd at 7 p.m. And we can already see the comments are coming in. McLean's. People are following along for a chance to win Habs tickets. Great service. No bad seat in the house. You're home away from home. And a shout out to all the staff for their outstanding service, the butter chicken pizza, the chicken tendies. And speaking of food, by the way, we can't forget our favorite family members. That's our pets. And we get all our pets at Animal Little Bear Online. Evie, Chuck, the outstanding staff there support us by supporting our sponsors. They have delivery too at littlebearonline.com. Marco, what is good, brother?
Oh man, that was I know that people aren't happy just because, obviously the Canadiens lost, but I thought that was a fun game, a tight game, and that unfortunate circumstances made it so that the Leafs got ahead and halfway through the third and kind of never looked back. But there was a lot to unpack there, a lot of fun to see, and I think the Canadiens, toe to toe with the Leafs right up until the end, and I think there's going to be a lot to look at here as we get into tonight's game as well against the Detroit Red Wings. For sure. And we can nitpick here and there, where the Canadiens kind of fell short, certainly a couple of areas, but, just to echo Marco's sentiment, I mean, to see the Canadiens play that way, and I think I saw it online, and we brought it up a couple of times on TSN 690 this morning. That was a better game than the season opener last year where Sam Montembeault stood on his head and spit out shiny nickels, 48 saves in a 1-0 Canadiens win. I think there's a lot to build off. So let me pick your brain right off the top. What impressed you about the Canadiens season debut? Ironically, I thought Mike Matheson played one hell of a game in terms of just overall, didn't see any egregious giveaways. Things were solid. I thought the pairing with him and Dobson was just really solid at 5-on-5. I thought, they were really good at getting to pucks early in the defensive zone, cycling it to each other, and then doing quick breakouts. And if you look at both defensemen, they have the highest amongst both teams, in fact, in terms of successful zone exits and rush defense. So that to me means that they stopped a lot of the opposition from coming in, and they were really, really good at starting the counterattack. And so to me, that pairing played like a top pairing last night. Unfortunately, the other ones didn't follow, and the Leafs took full advantage with the last change.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, like to build off the positives, and yes, Olivier, I hope to see you there. D'Amico and Starr live from McLean's October 22nd. That's the night when the Canadiens play the Calgary Flames at an 8:00 puck drop, and we'll be there live to set it up in person, right? So very much looking forward to that. I thought Dobson and Matheson, I think if you're a regular viewer of this channel, listener of this channel, I was a little concerned about a lot of skill, not a lot of defensive shutdownness. But I think Noah Dobson's presence will allow Mike Matheson to be a much better player. And to me, you know what? No disrespect to Laine Hutson. I want to, talk about his contract and what's going on there. It appears that emotions are running high, as some of the insiders are reporting in the last 48 hours or so. But that's a $9.5 million defenseman, man. I like this guy's game. What did you pick up from Dobson last night? Anything?
Yeah, well, I mean, let's start with the negatives, because then there's a mountain of positives that I'd like to get to. So the main negative that I got from Noah Dobson last night and from fans watching him was that back check at the end of the game on the Austin Matthews goal. And really, I do want to stress that if you watched Dobson this whole game, his strides were not very wide. Like, they weren't very powerful. And one of the main reasons for that is because he's still kind of being bothered by that groin injury. I don't think Noah Dobson's playing at 100%. And that being said, even Noah Dobson at 80% was the Canadiens' best, analytically, the best Canadiens defenseman and the best defenseman overall on the ice at 5-on-5, both teams combined. But unfortunately, on that back check, I think you saw that he was not able to push to the usual of his capacity when it comes to movement. Where Noah Dobson was really effective, I found, was quickly being able to win his battles, grab the puck, start the counterattack. And you saw that time and time and time again. And if you look at analytically, if you look at everybody that played with Noah Dobson, be it Mike Matheson or the forwards, every time Noah Dobson was on the ice, the forwards that were playing with him, their stats improved. So that to me is extremely telling because it's the details in Mike Matheson's game. Sorry, not Mike Matheson, Noah Dobson's game that made him look so good to me last night. Just the small things that if you were listening on the radio, you wouldn't know that he was having a great game. But if you watched on the ice, saw how he was handling guys in the corner, saw how he was calming down the play and starting quick counterattacks, I thought to me he was exactly as advertised on that end. The only thing I'd like to see more of, and kind of saw him try towards the end of the game, we need to see more shots from Noah Dobson because that is his biggest offensive weapon.
Well, I'm curious, with that being said, right, there were a couple of instances in that game, especially when the Canadiens were dominating on the power play in terms of zone presence, but where they weren't dominating the middle of the ice. I thought in 5-on-5 play, one point that Martin St. Louis had emphasized numerous times throughout the preseason schedule was talking about neutral zone. I thought they were pretty good in the neutral zone yesterday, up until the third period when Toronto grabbed that lead. And then, what I described as more or less a very mature Toronto Maple Leafs team. They slowed the game down. They played at their tempo. And I didn't think Montreal brought enough in order to counter that. But I want to talk about the power play for a second and tie it into patience. It's the first game. No one's killing anybody here. It was game number 1. We'll talk about Detroit and Montreal at 7:00 tonight in a second. Don't forget, we'll be back tomorrow morning at 10:30 to recap what we're going to watch tonight, right? But it seems like, the Canadiens, sometimes I feel like they forget to use their speed on the power play, especially when they have zone presence. You got 48 at the top. I wanted to see Slafkovsky, who I thought had a good game. He had, 10 total shot attempts, 6 on target yesterday. But, I mean, if there's one thing, if I'm going to be harsh, I guess, I wanted to see more of Slafkovsky in front of the net as opposed to being the distributor. If you want to distribute the puck, man, I want to see MSL put 93 in that spot. I prefer Demidov passing the puck 20 in front of the net and 48 at the top.
So I've been on this since a while now. I understand what they're trying to do by putting Zachary Bolduc in the bumper because that's how he was used in St. Louis, and there was a lot of success there. I think the issue with doing that is that by putting Bolduc in the center, you're now pushing Nick Suzuki to the right circle, and the best part of the Canadiens' first wave is Nick Suzuki. And I know a lot of people will be like, "Bah, Laine Hutson." Nick Suzuki has been the star of that first power play wave since the very beginning. Without him, it would be a bottom 5 power play from the beginning of this rebuild. And by removing him from the bumper, you're removing his rover ability. You're removing his mobility because now he's off to the side because all of the play is between Hutson, Bolduc, and Caufield. And everybody knows it. So what did the Leafs do last night? They had 3 guys basically box them out and remove all passing lanes. And then at that point, you really can't. You get stuck. You have to force it along the boards and recalibrate. And by that point, you're not moving enough. So to me, having a Hutson, whom I thought, I've always said this, he's fantastic on the power play, but his biggest default is that he is not a shooting threat. So anybody that defends him is not going to be afraid to go up to him, to be close to him, to put pressure on him because there's no shooting threat. He has to pass it or skate it, right? And by if you don't have more than one passing option as a shot attempt, then you're predictable. And by putting Nick Suzuki on the right side of a power play with a left passing Hutson, those passes, he's going to have to pivot. He's going to have to take a second to get ready. It's not as crisp as if you were doing a left shot pass. And for those that watch the Canadiens power play at the peak of their peak, I'm thinking Andrei Markov to Alex Kovalev 1-2s here, but a lefty to a lefty in that sense is where I would want to see Demidov in that chair, Suzuki back in the bumper, and Bolduc on the second power play wave, where Dobson and Laine can be shooting threats on that power play wave.
We have a lot of fun giveaways, and the people already jumping in McLean's. That's our tag word for today, as McLean's has been kind enough to give one of their tickets to the game at the Bell Center. Marco, good seats too in the Reds, right?
Absolutely. I believe it's the section 112J. So
yes.
Those are. I was walking by there when Stu told us. I was walking by the floor in the Bell Center just to go and see like what that looked like last week, and those are some pretty
great seats. Great seats.
The other thing I want to add that Stu has told us to mention as well is you wouldn't be going alone. It's not just 2 tickets. You'd be going with an esteemed member of McLean's who would buy the first round.
Free drinks always taste a little bit better, right? Yes.
It's like a $50 value right there. Just getting 2 beers at the Bell Center.
So our friends at McLean, Stu, Sammy, James, these are the best in the business. You're home away from home for all Montreal Canadiens games. Go check them out ahead of the Red Wings tonight. And by the way, before we keep going, and yes, we will be doing the draw. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and people are following. Make sure you write McLean's as the keyword. So subscribe, write McLean's as the keyword. And while I have your attention there, I got to tell you, I love this. It's such a compliment. And I told Marco about this this week. Friends at Morella's in beautiful Ganawage on Highway 136 have taken notice, Marco, of this show. And they have graciously donated a bunch of gift certificates to dine at their unbelievable facility. Beautiful steaks, premium booze, premium cigars. Great time to go. What you want to watch NFL football? You want a private room with premium cocktails and the best cigars in the business. And oh, by the way, the food is absolutely exceptional. Morella's. By the way, there's also no tax on the bill. And they've taken notice, Marco, of what we've been doing. And I just want to point that out, that we love to get, obviously, who doesn't want to get recognized? So I want to give a special shout out to our friends at Morella's. Marco, I think you and I should hit that place up pretty soon. Don't you agree?
You had me at food.
There's Marco D'Amico. Follow him at MN D'Amico with RG Media. You know what? Let's get back to patience for a second. I want to talk about patience, right? Because the Canadiens got absolutely crushed in the faceoff circle yesterday. Nobody was good in the faceoff circle. The guys that take draws, right? And I'm not here, and we're not talking about, is this the game Joe Veleno gets into at 7 o'clock in Detroit? I'm not making any lineup changes. Before I go on, are you thinking lineup at all? A lineup change ahead of Habs in Detroit tonight?
I don't know that it would be just from a performative standpoint. I think maybe, we don't know exactly how Kirby Dach is. Kent Hughes confirmed he wasn't at 100%. So because it's a back-to-back, do you swap out Kirby Dach for a Joe Veleno? That's the only way I see it happening. And, could it make sense for Joe Veleno to play? I mean, yes, it's obviously his original team.
Yeah.
But, Barry, we'll figure that out when we do the actual count. If they didn't subscribe, then they won't win. But when it comes to looking at the play of that line, I thought Brendan Gallagher was fantastic. I think a guy like Joe Veleno would play well with Brendan Gallagher. And then Zachary Bolduc was crashing, going where he could. Defensively, you saw that line have difficulty trying to find their legs a little bit. Obviously, one of them came from a lost draw from Kirby Dach in the defensive zone. So to me, that line needs help in terms of being able to start with possession, because that's always been Kirby Dach's biggest issue as a center, is he's always chasing the play unless he's the winger on that line and his center is the one, like Suzuki, for example, the one winning faceoff. So I agree that perhaps there could be a change and Veleno comes in, but I don't know that it would be because the organization feels that Dach necessarily played a bad game.
Well, that's it. Like, I'm not pulling the shoot on Kirby Dach. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, the guy's already going through it mentally. I assume, coming back from a devastating injury. Let's keep in mind, like, I'm not so sure the timeline syncs up. I think he's ahead of schedule. I don't know if he was expected to play an NHL regular season game on the 8th of October, So
Yeah,
he's going through it. You give him some games, obviously, but patience is everything because, Marco, the team, again, and I react to what management, what players are saying. And, if they're talking about speed as a weapon, if Martin St. Louis is complimentary of the age of this team, the Canadiens are once again the youngest team on average in the National Hockey League. And Martin St. Louis, in a piece in the Journal de Montréal here in Montreal, was talking about how that's the benefit. They've got energy. They've got adrenaline. Alex Carrier said they're hungry like wolves and stuff like that. Then you need better. You're going to need better results. You're going to need to show some results because they keep referencing last year's slow start, right?
I mean, yeah, I guess last year's, you could definitely make that comment. I think one of the key things here is that the young players were some of the best players.
A plumber.
Okay. All right, Stefan. Analytically speaking, they done a job, dude. But when it comes to Juraj Slafkovsky yesterday, with just a smidgen more luck, he easily would have had 2 goals. Just unfortunate puck luck in his case, and they'll start going in because if he plays like that, 82 games in a season, he'll definitely have more than 20 goals this year.
That's fair.
I think his expected goals from yesterday was like 1.5, and he had none. Just to give you an idea. So, like, this is a guy that if he continues to play the way he did, I thought, for example, and this may be a hot take for some people, but I thought Slafkovsky had a much better game than, say, Nick Suzuki on that line. I thought Nick Suzuki was physical. I thought, he was strong defensively, but he just didn't have it in the offensive zone last night. Agreed. Like I thought Slafkovsky did, for example.
I thought, it's funny you bring that up because I thought Cole Caufield around the net was dangerous. He tried to, pick corners, but
defensively as well.
Agreed.
Right? That's one of the things I love about Cole Caufield is everyone in the world called him a unidimensional player the first year that he came in, and it's literally like a Michael Jordan gif where you just be like, and I took that personally, and now he plays a more 200-foot game. Yeah. He's hitting as well. Agreed. Like he's physical along the boards for a smaller guy. Like I thought Cole Caufield was the most complete player on that line last night. And then Slafkovsky, I thought, followed well. Again, we've talked about Slafkovsky's issues. I feel like the moment he can get that half a second off his release faster, they're gonna start going in buckets.
And for me, I've chosen to, obviously, like a lot of people watching and listening to us today, I think it's fair to expect a level up season, based on what they did last year. Everybody takes the next step. I think there's more to a man, more defined roles. And that's why I choose to put a little bit more pressure on Martin St. Louis in terms of the structure, watching guys level up and him bringing them along. But if there's one thing I'm critical of, and it's just one game, again, everything with the caveat of it's one game, right? Patrik Laine played 46 seconds on a power play last night. When you break it down this way, just as an example, okay? I'll give you some numbers, right? Cole Caufield, 301 on the power play. Juraj Slafkovsky, 301 on the power play. Demidov, under a minute, okay? Zach Bolduc, 305 on the power play. And I know Bolduc scored a goal, right? But if Patrik Laine ain't out there eating on the power play, what are we doing here? I mean, there has to be a better way to. I mean, this is what he does. We can be critical in the chats, critical of Patrik Laine. I had no problem, but I didn't think the offensive zone penalty, by the way, where Kapanen scored his first career goal, Snipe City. I didn't think that was a lazy play. I thought that was like a Charlie Hustle play. So I really don't. I'm not going to kill the guy for that. But he's not a 5-on-5 guy, bro. Hey?
They were calling hooks on sticks the whole game.
But walk me through your mindset. I'm critical of MSL
as well.
I didn't like how MSL used Laine on and didn't really use him on a power play. Am I overreacting too harsh? I mean, this is what he does.
Absolutely you are, and that has nothing to do with how MSL used him, other than not putting him on the first power play wave, simply because one of the power plays, the first power play wave played a minute 45. So naturally, you're not like your second wave comes on and poof, it's done, right? But they still had an extended zone time in that time after the power play expired, and I think that's what you want to see.
Yeah.
Where I take issue, and I think this is really where I kind of have this. I kind of have this worry is on the power play really, really, really want to see a puck retriever on that power play. If you're going to have a Patrick Laine, then you need to have a guy that's going to be able to go in there and get the puck in case there's a whiff, in case he needs support, because his speed of execution outside of his shot is not NHL level right now.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe he gets into it. That's fine. That's okay. But the speed of execution, he's got, elite size. He's got an elite shot. He's got, good hands. It's just the speed of execution, right? And I don't know how, but he just seems to mystify people sometimes with his hands, even though it looks like it's in slow-mo live, players seem to have difficulty reacting to it.
Yeah.
But this is why I think last year when you had Nick Suzuki in the bumper that would be able to come in as a support option and along the boards to help with the board battles and maintain possession of the puck. They don't have that on the second wave because they have Kirby Dach in the slot. And that's not going to help anybody when it comes to winning puck battles right now, right? He's not at 100%. You're not putting either player in a position to succeed. I think Kirby Dach would be better as a net front presence at this moment. And then putting Zachary Bolduc in the slot there could make, thank you, Mitchell, could make a very interesting option because he becomes the fake option for a guy like Patrick Laine, because everybody's going to see the cross seam pass, right?
Yeah.
And this is where I come with this suggestion. Kirby Dach at the right circle, as he has been in the past, even when he was playing on the first power play wave, could be setting up both Bolduc in the bumper or Patrick Laine on the cross ice pass for one-timers. Much easier, more fluid kind of option. And then if all else fails, pass back up to Noah Dobson, who has a one-timer in his own right. And you have opened up the ice completely. And that's what the Canadiens don't do well. They do not open up the ice because, like we talked about in the first power play wave with Laine Hutson, there's always going to be a limitation because they're trying things that have worked elsewhere. For example, Bolduc on the first power play wave in the bumper. I get it worked in St. Louis because Rob Thomas was the one working, the boards, and then you had a Braden Shen as well, and a Jordan Kyrou. That there was more fluidity in there. With the way that the Canadiens play right now, you want to have your best puck distributor next to a guy like Bolduc. That's not, and no offense to him, that's not Cole Caufield. It's Nick Suzuki or Laine Hutson. So if you're going to play it that way, Nick Suzuki has to be the one closer, he'd be in the rover situation or in front of the net. And that doesn't make sense for a player like that anyway. So Martin St. Louis is going to try this for a couple of games. Let's see what happens. But my instinct is these two power play waves are going to get shuffled by the 5-game mark.
Correct. Before we move on, I just want to make a quick correction. Our friends at Morella's Highway 132 in Ganawage, lots going on there. Open 7 days a week. Check out their website for more at morellasteakhouse.ca. Marco and I will be there, and it won't be long. And the reviews will be coming fast and furious on the Starr and D'Amico show. But again, that's Highway 132 in Ganawage. Ivan Demidov yesterday. It took him a little bit to get going, but once he got going, man, this is such a confident guy. I remember, watching 93 out there a couple of times as the game got warmer. He got warmer. And I remember the line. I love that line when you said it. This guy wants the smoke, and he does things with the puck. He makes guys miss that just back up, your take at the time when you delivered it, when you broke that story. It almost and I know I've mentioned this before, but it almost reminds me about Laine Hutson that it's only a matter of time that his game is going to grow and MSL is going to be forced into a decision. Who would be the odd man out there if Demidov gets graduated and earns his way up the lineup for you? I mean, the Canadiens have a lot of depth on the wing.
Yeah, I think graduating at this point, if you're not playing on the first line, that's the only means of graduation, right? Because you could say that the Canadiens have a 3A and 3B right now, but no true second line.
Yeah.
Okay. So graduating would mean who would he supplant on the first line? I think everybody in the comments is going to go slap, because it's kind of obvious, right? Like you can't really, although I believe that one day when they do have a bona fide second line center, that there is a world in which you could separate Caufield from Suzuki. But right now, you simply just can't. And so if that's the case, then you'd have to bump up Slav. To me, it's not a question of that. It's more, what is the best combination? And my honest opinion, I think if the Canadiens actually wanted to load up one of the two lines that they have, that they're kind of, juggling as second and third, I think Bolduc, Kapanen, Demidov together would be fireworks. My 2 cents. Because we saw Bolduc yesterday crash the net, clean up the garbage,
correct.
Physical, going into it, active stick, good in the neutral zone. And then Kapanen, I mean, Jesus, guys. I thought,
what a shot.
Especially on the penalty kill, he got his legs going. That shot was really good, but that gave him confidence because of puck touches. I feel like Alex Newhook, as much as I appreciate what he did yesterday in terms of his overall defensive play, pucks went to die on his stick offensively when he got into the zone because it just seemed like his feet were moving too quick for his hands to follow in the play. Yeah. And it took too much time for Kapanen and Demidov to then turn around and try to assist and help him, because the puck was already going back the other way by the time they were getting into position to be open or receive a pass or open up a passing lane. So to me, I think he'd be better utilized on a more, I would say, speed challenged line. Like if ever the Canadiens decide we need to reunite the fourth line so that they can use that. And I want to get to that point where they could use that as a true shutdown line. And then maybe have like a Newhook, Doc, Laine combination where Newhook would be able to cover for Laine defensively. I think that could work better. But to me, ultimately, and I've said this since the beginning, the combo of Bolduc, Demidov is probably the one unused combination that we've seen since the start of preseason that we haven't seen yet, and that I'd be very curious to see how that goes.
Well, it's interesting, right? But I'm also wondering again about what this team wants to accomplish. I don't know how much you read in terms of season previews, where all the analytics people fell, where the pundits fell in the Montreal Canadiens, but there aren't many giving them a ton of respect for what they accomplished last year. I've seen, projections of point totals, 80, missing the playoffs. I've seen some in the wild card. I've seen a couple of top 3. We'll see how it plays out. Like a lot of people were wrong about last year, right? But the team internally has a lot of expectations, a lot of self-belief, right? So let's bring Laine Hutson into the conversation. And what the hell is going on here? What's going on with the contract? What's going on with the holdup? Why is this so complicated? And my question to you right now, not so much about the complications, but do you think this prevents Ken Hughes from making further moves if he wants to? The longer Hutson goes unextended, is there a handcuff situation, basically, is what I'm getting at? No,
absolutely not. The Canadiens are going to have a boatload of cap space next year anyway. I really wouldn't worry about that. So I don't think that hampers them in this season, nor would it hamper them next season. And, there's going to be some contracts that may not expire, but are going to be getting to the end of their time. You look at a guy like Josh Henderson, you look at a guy like Brendan Gallagher. I'm not saying they should trade him, but if need arised because, I don't know, this deal ends up being over $10 million because Laine Hutson has a crazy season and they refuse to negotiate in season. These are all ifs. I'm not reporting it. Then that could mess up their cap structure and it changes stuff. I don't believe it's going to change anything. I don't believe any of this is going to change anything. And in fact, I hate doing this because I know the players are human, and I found Laine Hutson okay yesterday.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the Laine Hutson that you saw in preseason that was playing with sublime confidence.
It looks like he was forcing it sometimes to me.
And I thought and I don't even think it's mostly him. I don't think that the combo of Hutson and Gooley necessarily works, especially when you're playing Hutson on his offside. I just don't finally think it's fair. You're putting Hutson in the best situation either. So I'll leave it at that. I had a lot of fans reach out to me and say, is he distracted from the contract negotiations? Is that weighing on him? I don't like to speculate on that. But what I will say is I don't think he's happy that it's not done. Because he was, and I was as well, given an indication that it was close,
right?
And then kind of, didn't work out at the end because of philosophical differences between both sides. The Canadiens wanted to use deferred money, which is now no longer possible.
Correct.
They wanted to structure a deal where Laine Hutson would use the retirement compensation agreement to reduce the tax impact, but he would only get access to half of his salary at the end of the deal, which is not ideal for an RFA. If you were a restricted free agent, and if you look at most new contracts, Noah Dobson, for example, Slafkovsky, Cole Caufield, you look at all of them, mostly front-loaded, right? Because right now, RFAs, when you come out of your entry-level contract, you don't have a lot of money. There's not that much liquidity that you own. And when your agents sign a contract for you upwards of $70 million, there's a nice agent fee that you need to pay. And so you best have a lot of money up front so that you can pay them off and then have money for you to actually be able to spend because you're an elite hockey player. There's not much appetite to want to lock up half your salary and throw it away only to be able to use it 9 years later. You know what I'm saying? So this is where the philosophical difference came in. And that's why there's a little bit of a pause on this. But I saw some fans, saying some unfortunate things about Laine Hutson last night and about the contract situation. This is what I feared, that if this stretched into the regular season and if, one of the two parties started leaking information, that there would be resentment. And I just really hope that Canadiens fans understand that this is just a normal negotiation and, leave Laine Hutson do his thing because.
Yeah, but also hold on, like the narrative too, the language that's being uttered has been, whoa, things are running hot. The parties need to step away. They need to step away.
Yeah,
things are too emotionally charged.
Who does that benefit?
Well,
who does the information
let me argue the other side for a second. Right? Like ultimately, I find it fascinating, right? Apparently, Cortex is behind this. They got 3 juggernauts all working. Ken Hughes has got his guys on his side, right? But like Laine Hutson's the player. Does Laine Hutson take the marching orders from his representation? Like Max Pacioretty fired his agent because of the deal that got structured. It's like, damn, I left a lot of money on the table. I'm not saying that's where Laine Hutson is, but it's not uncommon. We've seen players fire agents across the sports landscape before. But like, you've been consistently talking about Laine Hutson 8 years. The word on the other side is 6 years. But Laine's the boss. They work for Laine.
That's incorrect.
What's incorrect?
That it's 6 years.
Well, that's what's being reported by National Hockey Insiders.
Sure. Just like Luke Hughes was looking for 5 and signed for 7.
Yeah, well, the Devils wanted 8, right? The Canadiens want 8.
So see what happened there? It's you leak a certain piece of information to get the fan base to go nuts because then that puts pressure on the general manager, and that's fine. But on the flip side, negotiating 6 years at say $9 million.
Sure.
Helps give you more leverage to prop up the 8th year on a deal, especially that it's going to be illegal in about 11 months from now to have 8 years on a deal.
Yeah.
It allows you to further prop it up as a leverage point to say, oh yeah, you want to go from 6 to 8? Give us $10 million.
Mm-hmm. That's
what's happening here. That's it. If it were Laine Hutson and all things were equal and he was going to get the money that he thought that he thinks he's worth, and that there wasn't a council of individuals of very smart agents saying, we'll handle this and we'll shoot out numbers and there's going to be options on the table.
Yeah.
That's what's happening here. So when someone leaks out that it's been 6 years, that's not true. And we know it's not true because Emily Kaplan legitimately reported that there was an 8-year offer. So if there is multiple pieces of information being put out right now, just don't overreact to this stuff. Don't get angry. Don't get emotional, because that plays into exactly what the intended outcome is for when information like this gets leaked in the first place.
Well, then why do you think Hutson's camp said no? I mean, if the Canadiens were willing to go 8 years, and was it the deferred money? Was it the deferred money
it was the structure,
right?
Because they were probably, in terms of salary, probably, I'm telling you this, they were in the nines. They were in the nines
for sure.
But because of deferred salary, it would have brought the AAV, the average income, under $9 million on the cap hit. Now they can't do that no more because that expired as of October 7th.
Yeah.
Again, we're going to talk about this, and I will just continue to state this. They have a year to figure this out. There's
no leverage for Hutson. You can't offer sheet the guy this summer. You can't.
No offer sheet, no arbitration, one season of play.
Correct.
And now all the risk is on him, right? Everyone's like, well, what if he scores a point per game? What if he gets injured?
That's it.
Like, there's I think he's an all-world defenseman. I think he's going to be a top 5 defenseman for a long time. But he's still 5'10", 180 pounds, right? There's a serious chance of getting crunched one day and having to play through an injury, or worse, having a long-term injury. And that would nuke his leverage. So there's a level of like balance here, and it's dangerous. And I get why fans are nervous. But all I got to say is let the lawyers handle this. Let the general managers handle this. All of this is noise. All of this is meant to make you react. None of this is going to result in Laine Hutson leaving the Montreal Canadiens, in any time of the foreseeable future. As Kent Hughes has said, Laine Hutson can only become an unrestricted free agent as of 2031.
Yes. That's it. So again, back to the lack of leverage, right? And I'm going to read you a text I got from.
Well, just look at Mason McTavish. He signed a 6-year deal, and they were in an arm like a blood 5 for what? The entirety of the summer?
Yes, 100%.
You signed 7 years, so
let me read you this text message I got from an NHL scout. Okay, close to Montreal. When he watched our video on Luke Hughes' new deal sets the market for young defensemen. Watch that video. Sent me a screenshot of the video, and then had his take on it. Okay. If Hutson trusts his game short term, he could push for a 4-year deal, take advantage of the huge jump in cap in 27-28. I wouldn't say it's greedy; it's more confident. But with his size and weight, and Marco touched on the size, but with Hutson's size and weight, it's a risk. If I'm in his spot and he's offered $9 million-ish for 8, that's $72 million in the bank, and he will still be 30-ish when he's out of that contract. You take that money. And it also leaves the Canadiens in a decent spot for adding when they need to go over the top. So, just to kind of reaffirm that. I mean, did the Noah Dobson acquisition and Noah Dobson's pay scale? No. Noah
Dobson is more like Jackson Lacombe. These are guys that were a year away from being unrestricted free agents at the moment that they signed. So the grand majority of the contract is unrestricted free agent years. If Laine Hutson were to sign 8 years as of the start of next season, it would be, if I'm not mistaken, the Canadiens would be buying 3 unrestricted free agent years. So it's a big difference. You're talking about 3 versus 6, 3 versus 7, right? And some people are going to argue, but he's better. I will reserve whether or not Laine Hutson is better than Jackson Lacombe until the end of the season.
Fair.
Just because I think Lacombe was the most improved defenseman in the NHL, but he's also 3 years older. So there's a little bit of that to take into consideration. So it's not simply just he's the better player on the ice, he should make more money. There's a little bit of a differentiator that's involved, and also the player makes a big difference in that as well. Look at, for example, Kyle Connor signing for $12 million. Yeah. Is he $5 million worse than Kirill Kaprizov?
Yeah.
No, but it's a different negotiation. And so that's why you always have to take one case to the other.
Nice to see Jack Eichel get the bag too, and then deliver a 4-point performance for the Vegas Golden Knights and the LA Kings late matchup last night.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, Pat Brisson, the last 2 weeks, that man, $9 million Luke Hughes, $9 million Jackson Lacombe, 13.5 Jack Eichel. CAA in the bank.
Don't forget, like and subscribe to this video. Comment McLean's. We will be doing the draw. McLean's season tickets for one game to one lucky winner. But you got to subscribe to this channel. We will be doing the draw. Make that announcement. And by the way, if it comes, it has to come from this official channel here. Comes from some guy in Nigeria promising a bank account and hockey tickets. It's not us. You will know it's us. I promise you. So stay tuned for that.
My cousin's in Nigeria?
Yeah, that's right. Watch out. Let's get to some of the questions. We're 40 minutes deep into this. Big shout out, big thanks to our sponsors, cheapesttshirts.ca, locally owned and operated. Keep money in your pocket. Buy premium gear at the cheapest prices, same day delivery. Locally owned and operated, McLean's Pub, littlebearonline.com, and Catherine Prince Realty. You want to be closer to the Montreal Canadiens, or you just want to know what your house is worth? Check out catherineprince.ca. That's Catherine with a K. Lucy Rodriguez, thanks, Marco, for being my Montreal-related therapist. It's hard not to feel resentment towards the players' camp. Thanks, Lucy. Nicola voting Marco for Prime Minister.
Thank you, Nick. Please no. Having worked in politics, please no. Yep. The last thing I need is tomatoes.
Correct.
Well, actually, tomatoes thrown at me could be useful.
It could be good.
Anything else?
I'm sure this guy.
One thing that, so Mr. Nicely, I just want to make sure about this. Players that are eligible for restricted free agency cannot have no trade clauses in their contract until they reach the age in which they could have been an unrestricted free agent. So what does that mean in English? Laine Hutson, if all things equal, the earliest he could become an unrestricted free agent is in the summer of 2031. That means that any of the years that he signs for prior to the 2031-2032 season cannot have trade protection in it because the CBA does not allow that. Now, if he signs for 6, 7, or 8 years, well, then those 6th, 7th, and 8th years can have trade protection, and you bet your bottom dollar that they had trade protection in the Canadiens offer.
Don't forget, we'll be back here tomorrow morning at 10:30 in the aftermath of the Canadiens and Red Wings. Red Wings home opener tonight. Let's get to Stuart here. Doesn't want to see this team in last place before they make a change to Demidov. I still stand by it. I think this guy, as the games grow, he's going to force the hand. He's going to earn the right to move up the lineup, and it's going to come fast.
Laine Hutson was on the first power play wave by mid-November.
Exactly. Correct. Yeah. Mike Matheson, sorry, but that's the way it works.
And again, there's a difference between the expectations for last season versus this season. I think
totally.
There's a nice little term in French, la mèche courte. I think they're going to have a much shorter leash this season than last. And, I have a funny feeling, like I said, by the 5-game mark, if the Canadiens are an under 500 team, expect changes.
Yeah. What's up, Ethan? Thanks so much. On the game last night, on line changes, more ice time for the PP2. I liked the game last night. I liked the energy. I thought they started slowly, but as the game went on, I thought the Montreal Canadiens, as we mentioned off the top, it was a better game last night than the 1-0 shutout in the season opener against the same team a year ago. I'm not critical of the Canadiens.
At 5-on-5, they were the better team. The Montreal Canadiens were. I found they were the better team.
But what about? Go ahead.
I thought the Montreal Canadiens were the better team at 5-on-5. I think that they got unlucky on a couple of goals, specifically that second goal that kind of got blocked by Jack-Eye, but then didn't. And the first goal of the game was like a deflection off a muffin shot from Nylander. It is what it is, right? And then the third goal, both defensemen either break or lose their stick. Let's call a spade here. In terms of probability scoring, the Leafs did not have this game, but they won. And that's the mark of a good team. You find a way to win. And, the Leafs may have lost Mitch Marner, but they're still a good team. I agree. Chill.
Yes,
I feel like this game, prior to that weird third goal, I thought it was anybody's game. And I thought the Canadiens dominated the Leafs, especially at 5-on-5, from the 5-minute mark of the first period to about the end of the second period. I feel like ultimately it was just bad luck. And I feel like for the amount of new players in the lineup, you look at Kapanen, you look at Baldzuk, you look at Noah Dobson, I thought those guys all played really well. So that's a very good sign that they came up and were ready right off the hop. But you best believe that Martin St. Louis was vocal in that dressing room at the end of that game.
I see. Well, welcome to Montreal, Noah Dobson. I didn't think he played horribly defensively at all, but everybody has a different interpretation of what they see. But welcome to Montreal.
Ironic.
Welcome to making $9.5 million. You know.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's ironic in that sense because Noah Dobson was basically neck and neck with Alex Carrier for one of the best defensive performances in terms of pokes, takeaways, being able to their one-on-one battles. The Canadiens play a zone defense to begin with. They don't play man-to-man, so he's obviously going to give some space when it comes to the way that they look at their defensive coverage. And you look at how Noah Dobson played, 21 chances for, only 13 against. So I really don't understand where the bad defensive play comes in when they didn't allow a goal against at 5-on-5 while he was on the ice, and he was the only defenseman used in every situation.
100%.
He played a fantastic game.
He did.
He was the best defenseman on both ends of the ice, and there is no underlying statistic that could prove otherwise.
Yeah, I liked Alex Carrier's game a lot too.
Yeah, well, Alex Carrier, and you see, so this is my thing, and I'm going to get attacked. I know I'm going to get attacked, but I thought Alex Carrier carried Arbor Jackeye last night.
Yes, agreed. Yes,
I thought, to a degree, I like Arbor Jackeye's physicality, but you talk about a guy who lost his man. And that gave too much space to the forwards around him. Unfortunately, that was actually Jackeye last night, not Dobson.
Correct.
The stats don't lie in this regard.
Well, they cut Jackeye's ice time down too. I mean, he barely played towards the end.
Yeah, and again, I get that because in a game like that, where the physicality really isn't that needed, so it wasn't a super physical game. Being safer was better, and that I understand. So. I'm not saying that this is the end of Jackeye and he should be benched and this and that, but I think it's fair to say.
Correct.
Didn't necessarily, especially on that second goal, just didn't. I found there were opportunities where when he was on the ice, players got away from him easier. Well, if you look at Dobson, it was the other way around. He had the best zone exit percentage out of anybody on both ends of the ice, and he had the best rush defense percentage out of anybody on the ice. So if you put those two together, that means he was the best two-way defenseman on the ice. And we're not even going to talk about the efficacy on the penalty kill or what happened on the power play.
Well, totally. And here's Tom in the chat. Could have used the Sammy Blais type yesterday. The Leafs have Sammy Blais, and they didn't even dress him yesterday. But to Marco's point, if I'm going to be critical of Arbor Jackeye, I'm not making a lineup change today, but the first guy I would look at would be Jaden Struble slotting in. And I'm not saying tonight, maybe for Saturday in Chicago, depending on how tonight plays out, right? Canadiens play their home opener next week against the Seattle Kraken. But what you had just said in terms of that wasn't really a physical type of hockey game. Like if Arbor Jackeye's in the lineup playing, whether they're playing a Brownie troop or whether they're playing an NHL team, your job is to be physical, to make people pay a price. And to me, it's a little disappointing. It's if I'm going to be hypercritical and harsh, bro, you got to be out there and you got to hit. That's your job.
Yeah, and I'm not even going to be out here to just be upset or negative towards him. I don't think he was alone. I thought Caden Gooley had a very difficult game as well.
Interesting.
So I didn't think that Gooley necessarily played the best of his ability, and maybe again like Dobson, and it's a thing that no one's really taken into consideration. Both of these guys had groin injuries.
Yeah.
Right. So this is something that doesn't go away naturally just like that in a week. It's something that lingers and that takes you maybe a week or two. I remember Scott Gomez actually. Yes, they did lose Sammy Blais. Yes. Scott Gomez told a story a decade now. We're old, but he had mentioned that 1 year he started the Canadiens training camp with a groin injury, tried playing through it, and it just elongated the impact where he wasn't able to get full strides, and it affected his speed, and it did so all the way into the month of November, into the beginning of the month of November. So when it comes to Dobson, and I've said this, give him about 10, 15 games, and I think you'll have a better idea. But if that's what 80% Noah Dobson looks like, then 100% Noah Dobson is going to be a very interesting case to follow.
Well, let's have a conversation, right? Like Joe Valeno is getting some love in the chat, right? Talking about, is it the money on the board game, former Red Wing. Habs are in Detroit at 7:00 tonight. Joe Veleno in, Joe Veleno in. Listen, I think Joe Veleno won a lot of people over at camp. And obviously earned his spot on this roster to break camp as a Canadian and not be put on waivers, not report back to the Laval Rocket if he doesn't get claimed, right? But the question is, like in any other conversation, the Canadians are going to make the playoffs. Well, who, or Columbus is going to make the playoffs. Who are you taking out to make room for them? So that also applies to who are you taking out if you want to put Joe Veleno in? Like, I mean, it's not Kirby. It's not Kirby Dach after one game. Let's be honest here.
I don't think, again, we talked about this at the top of the show, but basically, I don't think it's a performative issue. I think it's a health reason.
Fine, yeah.
If they're going to bring Dach back the same way that they brought Reinbacher back, well, Reinbacher played every second game. So it wouldn't be outlandish to me that we see Dach come in. I'm not going to say like it's bad. I'm not saying line juggle, but I'm saying if they want to give him every other game, right? Like, I think 3 and 4. Yeah, I think
maybe you don't play him Saturday then. To Rod Langway's point, maybe
why would you not play him against Chicago? Of all teams, I think Detroit makes more sense because you're more apt to make a mistake. You're more apt to get injured statistically on a back-to-back than you are rested playing against your former team with
agreed
fire in your eyes. If there was a game to sit him, it would be tonight. Now, I'm not Martin St. Louis. I'm not coach. But if they don't think that he's at 100% and they want to give him a rest and bring him along slowly so that he can continue to find his legs and come back to a healthy form while playing, it wouldn't be outlandish to me if Joe Veleno plays tonight.
It's going to be interesting to see Habs and Red Wings at 7 tonight. Marco and I will be here tomorrow morning at 10:30 for a recap. Jakub Dobeš expected to get the start between the pipes after Sam Montembeault. And I had this conversation with Mark today on TSN 690. A little loosey-goosey, but overall fine game from Sam Montembeault. He's not the reason the Canadians lost that game. But let's talk about like the splits for a second. 33%, is that the right number here? 1 out of every 3 games is when Dobeš gets the call here. Like, I'm not even for a second creating a goalie controversy. I'm not talking about platooning. I'm not talking about you're winning, you're in. Sam Montembeault is the number 1 goaltender today for the Montreal Canadiens, but that 33% number makes sense to me. 1 out of every 3. How do you think the split plays out?
33% would be 27 games. Seems about right? I think it's between 25 to 30 games that he needs to play. Ideally, keeping Montembeault fresh at 55 games, 56, 7 games, I think is the best way to go. And, I don't even disagree here, Karim. I agree. I think, there has to be a level of meritocracy at this point. I think it's a little early to institute that. You need a little bit
of a larger
sample size. Yeah. It's just you can't be too reactionary either. And I think that's the key, right?
Agreed.
You look at, for example, the Rangers. They bring in a new coach and Mike Sullivan. Mike Sullivan did not like the performance of the Rangers in their opening game. He's not going to come in and jumble the lines right off the bat, right? Like you need a stronger sample size. You also have to leave room for these professionals to, adapt to what you're telling them to do or the information that you're giving them. You can't just be like, you had a bad game, you're out. You have to give them the right to be able to show that they can improve from that game, which is a little bit of a calling card for Martin St. Louis. Is he's rarely ever been the guy to just be like, you made one mistake, I'm going to sit you. It's if you make 7 of them in a row, well, then they're going to sit you or put you on a 4th line.
Like, how would you feel at your job if, you made a filing mistake by accident, not a catastrophic one, but a mistake, and, the boss shit cans you like right away? Like, give guys a chance to fight back. And I mean, they're professionals at the end of the day. I like to say, the hitter always knows. These guys, Arberjack guy knows how he played. Kirby Dach knows how he played. Oliver Kapanen, who I thought had a strong, first 20 minutes, but gradually declined and noticed him less and less. I mean, he knows how he played, but it's all about for me anyway, it's all about what are you going to do about that? What's your pushback look like? How hard is your pushback going to be? So I like that they're getting right back on the horse at 7:00 against the Detroit Red Wings. Let's talk about this Red Wings team as it relates to the Atlantic Division, fighting for a playoff spot. Like the Red Wings are hoping to be who the Canadiens were last year, right? The team that, whoa, here they come, playoff run. They have some really young pieces. You may see 3 20-year-olds dressed in the lineup today. We'll see what John Gibson at 32 years of age can do for them between the pipes. But Marco, Detroit has some nice pieces. What's your read on the Red Wings this year?
Yeah, I mean, the Red Wings have been swimming in the pool of mediocrity in the Eastern Conference for quite a while. And, I think I just saw their lineup for tonight be posted here. And their second pairing is going to be Simon Edvinsson, who was drafted in the first round in 2021. So he's 22, going to be 23 years old this year. And then you have Axel Sandin Pellikka, who was drafted in 2023. So he's 20, going to be 21. That's their second pair. There is not a lot of NHL games between those two, right?
No,
like we're talking about less than 100, right? So there, and I would even wager less if you look at Edvinsson's stats. But when it obviously comes down to it, is they're going with youth. Yeah, he played 78 games, almost a full season last year. So less than 100 games combined. And to me, like that's the money pairing. Like that is, especially at home, they have the last change. It's going to be interesting to see how that line is utilized in Detroit, that pairing is utilized in Detroit. Yeah. Marco Kasper to me is going to be very interesting to watch. Sure. This is the answer to all their center issues. They went out and signed Kopp, Comfer, you name it, all these unrestricted free agent centers, and it just so happens to be their first round pick from 2022 and Marco Kasper, who is the one that rises above and supplants himself as the second line center of that team. He's a very interesting player to watch. Good size, good shot, good hands. So a very dark horse kind of player that in a redraft will probably, maybe go top 5 and give a guy like Cutter Gauthier a run for his money. So they got a lot of good young pieces. And then you obviously have, Mo Seider, you have Dylan Larkin, Alex DeBrincat. They have a bunch of good pieces. Yep. The issue has always been bringing them together and goaltending. And so all the pressure right now is going to be on John Gibson in this role, right? Didn't want to go to Edmonton because he didn't want to share the cage with a guy like Skinner. Is the unquestioned number 1 goalie in Detroit now. Doesn't have the excuse that he's playing behind a rebuilding team. Like now he's got to perform as a number 1 goalie. And so that to me is going to be interesting to watch.
Stuart Skinner night last night. Edmonton blows a lead, 846 save percentage, and Leon Draisaitl scored a goal, and Connor McDavid had 2 assists. There's the Edmonton Oilers 2025, 2026.
In a nutshell. I will never understand the love affair that Stan Bowman and the Edmonton Oilers brass have with a guy like Stuart Skinner. Just the inconsistency to me, 100%. Like at a certain point in time, especially with your superstars and some of your subsequent secondary guys taking less money, take a hint.
You can support us by supporting our sponsors, cheapesttshirts.ca, your go-to for custom tees, hoodies, and merchandise. Canadian-owned, fast shipping, no minimum orders, and unbeatable prices. Get yours today at cheapesttshirts.ca. And, of course, McLean's Pub, your friendly neighborhood spot for great food, great service, cold drinks, and just good old-fashioned good times in Montreal, 1210 Peel in downtown Montreal. You can check them out online at mcleanspub.com. And I hope to see many of you there on October 22nd at 7 p.m. Marco D'Amico and yours truly live for the live version of the Starr and D'Amico show. And, of course, our friends at Little Bear, at littlebearonline.com. Evie and Chuck and their all-star staff care about your pet as much as you do. And I mean that. Great local food and unbelievable pet accessories from the best brands from all over the world. And a big shout out to friend of the show, Catherine Prince. That's Catherine with a K, Prince.ca if you're looking to buy or sell a home. And I can't wait to take Marco to Morella's Highway 132 in Ganawage. No tax on your bill and premium cigars, unbeatable food, and one of the nicest looking bars you will ever see. Go check them out. I promise you won't regret it. Highway 132 in Ganawage. I've got the Canadiens back on track tonight. I think the Habs win. You ready for this one? 3-0, baby. Jakub Dobeš pitches a shutout. Let's go.
I'm going to go with 4-1 Canadiens. Yep. 4-1 Canadiens with a Cole Caufield hat trick.
And from your lips. Thank you so much for tuning in to us today. We really appreciate it all. As always, you can rely on D'Amico and Starr to be with you the morning after every Montreal Canadiens game, and that means tomorrow, 10:30 a.m., bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, after the Habs handle their business at the Joe against the Red Wings.
And Sunday after the Canadiens play the Chicago Blackhawks as well.
Of course. Nice original six trio start for this team. I mean, it doesn't really mean anything to me, but
and then they go home and play Seattle.
Exactly. The rivalry. Sometimes I wish, like, maybe I'm too sensitive, too much of a fanboy take, but like, why can't the Canadiens open up at home? They're the freaking Canadiens. Why do they got to go to Toronto?
Before. It's the spectacle of it all. It's in Toronto. It's the league. Listen,
bro, the spectacle of it all. Did you notice in the third period? Go Blue Jays, go! Got a louder pop, and then the sushi eating Torontonians are like, "Go Leafs, go!" I mean, they were more excited for the Jays than they were for their Leafs, man.
I mean, with reason. One of them is having playoff success.
Indeed, ALCS.
So,
yeah.
I mean, at that point, you're in the semifinals, right?
I know.
When
you excited about the Jays? You're excited about the Jays?
I'm just putting myself in a Torontonian shoes. I mean, for them, they have a team in the semifinals. I, of course, would be cheering for that over the season opener of a Leafs game where the Leafs are getting dominated at 5-on-5 at that point.
Ooh,
to me, like, it makes total sense. And I know a lot of people that decided to go to the Jays game or go and follow the Jays game, and then go to the Leafs home opener. There were people being able to buy tickets below cost to this Leafs home opener because a lot of people were wanting to keep their eyes on the Jays game. So I completely understand it. In fact, what I was going to say about that home opener was that the home opening ceremony and the energy in that building in the first period was abysmal. I've seen Canadiens fans show more emotion for a rookie tournament.
What we're talking about, man. We're like, what's up with that? Like, is that just a schmooze fest? Is that a bunch of like fat cats sitting on their wallets, and like they don't bring the jam? Like, there's still fans in the building,
Yeah, but it's a different story. It's a different kind of crowd. It's a different kind of accessibility. And even to a degree with Montreal Canadiens games, the cheaper the tickets, the louder the crowd, right? And I always felt like I feel like that's the case everywhere. But yeah, like I said, that's game one. We'll see what game two looks like. I'm fully expecting to have another very, very fun conversation with the fans as early as tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m.
You nailed it, brother. And we'll wait and see the Jays open up the ALCS at home on Sunday. Just waiting to see. Is it going to be Detroit? Is it going to be Seattle? Wait and see for that as the baseball playoffs resume today with just 2 games starting at 6, Phillies and Dodgers, Brewers and Cubbies. The Tigers and Mariners, we got to wait till Friday night for that series ultimately to be decided with Game 5. Yes, it is a best-of-5 division round series. We move to best of 7 for the National League and American League Championship Series. All right, D'Amico, that's all our baseball talk for today. We'll be back, as Marco already alluded to, tomorrow morning at 10:30. Like and subscribe and stand by for the announcement. Who's the lucky winner to get those McLean's tickets for the game in December in the Reds? Thanks for watching. Thanks for the comments. Thanks to our sponsors. We'll see you tomorrow at 10:30.